Okay, with this one, what we're going to do is we're going to do a trip to the moon, trying to use mostly the basic parts. And I don't remember which ones are all in the basic ones, but we'll use mostly that. And this is also the latest version of SFS, so you do have to watch out for burning up. You can't clip engines together. It's more of a real simulation this way, which is why I kind of like it. So I'm going to bring in the first engine is for thrusting from the Earth, because it's allows the cone to be specifically shaped, assuming that there's air pressure on the thrust. This one can be a different shaped thrust because of the fact that you're in vacuum. Okay. This one is for taking off from another planet or the moons, and then this is a thruster for basically for positioning yourself in orbit or approaching and docking with other ships. Down here, if I click that allows me to turn on symmetry. And so basically I can then just drag out a piece, drop it in, and it makes a duplicate of it on the other side. Okay, so let's throw some propellant. These rockets are right up against each other because I'm going to kick them all loose at the same time. Outside of this, though, I'm going to place some external boosters. Okay, and I'm going to join those with these guys, which are side separators. And I'm going to show you how to stage. That's something I haven't seen many people actually talk about on here yet, so we will actually stage these off. So let's put a cap on these ones. There's better caps that I could use. I just don't remember if they're in the, if we go aerodynamics, I've got ones that are on angles and that I could use. I just don't, like I said, I don't remember if they were part of the basic pack. So, okay, so I'm going to go one more level up on these ones. I'm going to put a cap on the top of these ones. That's my main thrusters. Now I'm going to put on a separator. This allows me to stage. So now that I'm in space, I'm going to use one of the space engines because they're much more efficient. Okay, drop in a couple of tanks of fuel. Okay, I'm going to stage again. I'm going to put thrusters on the outside of that just to help me to turn a little bit. Now this is the lander we're going to build. I'm going to put 2 rockets on this one, side by side. They're just side by side, so I don't need to worry about clipping them or anything. Throw a tank on top of that. I'm going to give it some legs on each side, thrusters on each side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a probe on this thing. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want this orbiting rocket here, the one I'm going to try landing with, my lander, to be able to run independent of the capsule if I want to. Okay, so I'm just going to raise that up just a little bit, just because I want to give it just a little bit more fuel. Okay, and I'm also going to put on here, under aerodynamics, some parachutes. And the reason I'm going to do that is I had one time where the rocket ended up clipping the top of my capsule and broke my parachute, so I just want to be able to put a parachute on this lander if I need it as well here. Okay, let's go back to basics. I'm going to put a separator, and then I'm going to build my capsule. I'm going to turn off symmetry because there's just one of these. There's my capsule, so that'll allow me to get back, if I wanted to, the Earth's atmosphere or to land on Mars. Select them and put it on the top of the rocket. Okay, so let's do staging. Staging is this one right here. So if I click on this, it allows me then to say, what is my first stage? My first stage is to turn on these 5 rockets. My second stage is to break the connectors loose that are joining on those side thrusters. My third stage is to separate here and turn on this engine and these thrusters. My fourth stage is to separate and turn on these engines and drop these legs to get ready to land. Okay, and when you turn on the thrusters, it should still be on the top ones as well. So we should be good to go with that. I could have another one that's a stage for separating off the capsule. In fact, let's do that. So I'm going to say the next stage is just to separate off the capsule. Okay, and let's call it that. Now when I click on this launch window, down at the bottom over here, we've got the staging. So basically, first thing I'm going to do is just raise the thrust up to full, and then I'm going to hit this to say first stage. First stage is just to turn on all these engines. Okay, so thrust to full and stage. You can see engine on, and I'm going to hit this one and say go. And we've got good climb. So now what I'm doing is I want to get about 1,000 meters altitude, and then I'm going to start to build my orbit. And to build the orbit means we're going to take and we're going to pitch over to the right. So as soon as we get up to around 1K and where it says my angle can be, an angle they're talking about up here, can be 10, I'm going to start staging. And start, not staging, but start turning. So pitching over to the side, wait for it to say 20, and then pitch over some more. You want to do this in the Earth's atmosphere because these engines, don't forget, are meant to thrust under gravity, under the pressure of the atmosphere. So they're given a lot of thrust. Let's let them give us a little bit of a push to the side as well. They don't work as well in space, so don't just go straight up and then try to turn. Take the angles. Okay, so I'm going to go to 45-ish. Don't have to be accurate, really, with this. Then if I take a look, we can see how we're doing. I was just pressing map. You can see if I click up here, okay, we've got a satellite going by there. Click on this guy, go switch back to him. That's how you deal with some of the approaching, and if you want to dock with something, that's what you can do, is you can switch between the two by just doing that. Now, I've got good upward trajectory, so that's why I'm going to start pointing more. It says 75 is the most I should go, but I'm already at it like 86. Because I really want to get a good thrust going to the side. You can see my fuel is getting low, so I'm going to get ready to stage. And as soon as that happens, I'm going to hit this little button down here and stage off those sides. Now you can see we're about to break through the atmosphere up there. So I know even if I turned off thrust right now, I'm going into space. So about here, I'm going to turn it off for a second and just let my rocket continue on up. I've now passed into space. The satellite's whipping on past in front of us. My thrusters are going to drop back down and behind us there. So point my rocket towards the arrow. That's the direction I want to thrust. Now, what I'm going to do is when I hit the gas here, is I'm going to try to build this orbit bigger, and I usually do it before I get to the line. So I'm going to turn on the thrust now, and the goal now is to try to build that orbit so that it extends past the edges of the Earth and starts coming out the other side. There it is. And low Earth orbit. So at this point, I can turn off the thrust. I know I'm going to stay in orbit. I'm going to go to map, and I'm going to go and take a look from here where Mars is. There's Mars. Say navigate to Mars. So you can see where the transfer window is here. I need to get the Earth to go around, and it's probably going to come to about here, maybe even about here, before we actually start to get close to that transfer orbit. So let's just speed up time. I know I'm going to be okay because I was in an orbit, right? So There we go. So we're speeding along. Don't catch up to it completely. Just get close. Okay, start to slow down. You don't want to shoot up past it because it actually happens before where you need to do some stuff. And this will change from transfer window to escape. So I'm getting there. I'm just watching, and as soon as it says it changes to escape, I'm going to, there it is, slow it down, my speed. Now zoom back into the Earth, because now we have the path. That's the path we want to go. Go back down to the Earth and look for my transfer window. So my transfer window is here, and I'm just about there. I gotta turn. I'm just about at the location already. I'm only going to be able to thrust for a little bit here before it's going to run out of time. Yeah, we're at transfer. Go. Go map. Throttle up. And then in a couple seconds, stage. Okay. So there we go. We're now on to the next stage, which is going to push us off to Mars. Now I'm going to speed this up. Okay. And basically what we're trying to do is approach that dotted line. So the dotted line is the escape. And we're getting, I hope the moon doesn't interfere with us, because that's the moon there with my different satellites around there. And sometimes what happens when we're doing this is it gets, and it thinks we're trying to go to the moon, and it affects our ability to do a proper guidance going through here. We'll see what happens. So this is going to get bigger and bigger. It's going to shoot past the moon's orbit. There, that's what I was afraid of. Hopefully this still works. Okay, I'm going to have to watch this. See down in here? I'm going to have to take that encounter line as close as I can get it. Okay, there, it went through. Good. Let's go over here. Sometimes you lose the dotted line. So there we go. Now this is the escaping from the Earth. So let's get this line closer, and you keep going slowly until that just disappears. You see that dotted line there and the escape? Just keep going until that just disappears. There we go. Turn off the thrust. It's just disappeared. Go to the Mars. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in on Mars. There it is. See the encounter line there? So I'm going to keep coming. Now I'm giving it just a little bit more gas. If you went too far, it'd be on the other side of the planet, and you'd have to turn around and aim backwards a little bit. So come in close. Zoom in some more. Do this slowly. Take your time. Usually what I do with this is I will come in to just inside the orbit of Phobos. Now I went too far. You see what's happening? So it shot out the other side. So what I need to do is I need to quickly turn my rocket around. Okay. I'm going to turn off the acceleration, because that's what the problem was I accelerated right past it. And it's going to come back in. There it is again. Okay, so I'm going to turn my rocket around. Now watch what happens when you do this. I'm turning. And you see how it's doing that? How it grows bigger and smaller? That's because I have those RCS rockets on. And they can sometimes cause that. So I'm just going to turn it this way. Let's try it again. Hopefully we can see the line come back in. There it is. I've turned off those RCS rockets, so we'll make another run at this. I've got enough fuel, so that's okay. Okay, one more time. Don't go too far. If you go too far, you can come in around the other side and come at the planet going in the opposite direction. But let's just go with this. Whew. Made it. Okay, so now I'm just going to accelerate until you see this ship. So there's the escape location. There we go. So we've escaped the influence of the Earth. We're now shooting along. You see how we're starting to tag up with Mars there. Okay. And I'm a little bit inside the orbit, so I will be going faster, relatively, right? As I start coming out, it'll appear to start to slow down. That's the whole thing when you're doing docking and that, is if you want to go slower, go at a larger orbit. If you want to go faster, go to a lower orbit. Same speed. The ship can be moving the same speed, it's relative speed at that point. So you can see we're starting to come in. I'm going to slow down my acceleration here on the time. Okay, so we're now in the influence of Mars. So I'm just going to let myself start to go in. Make sure we're still just inside the orbit there, yeah. Okay. So we're just inside the orbit of Phobos. We don't want to shoot past it though. Okay, so we're coming in. There it is. I'm going to slow down some more. So we're passing the outer moon. Okay, I'm going to slow down at this point. Turn myself around. Because what I'm going to do is at the closest approach to Mars, I'm going to hit it full thrusters. And I've got lots of fuel, so we won't have any problem. But I'm going to hit it full thrusters and slow down. And what I want to do is that escape you can see going off the other side here. This is actually a big loop. Now, because it falls outside of the gravitational influence of Mars, it doesn't come back. But when I start to slow down, it's going to create an orbit this way. And that's what we want to do. We want to bring that orbit in. So what we do is we go to the closest approach right here, and then we fire the engines and just let it slow us down. So I'm just going to accelerate a little bit. There's Phobos, so we're going to whip past Phobos here. Okay. Just making sure I'm thrusting in the right direction. It's almost a straight line, right? So as soon as I'm close enough, we're good. You can see the locations on Mars where we could land. Okay. Check my aim just to make sure we're pointing good location. Yep, and full throttle. So make sure it's thrusting. Okay, so now you can see our velocity is slowing down real fast here. So what we're doing is we're slowing ourselves down so that the gravitational field of Mars will grab us and pull us into orbit. So slowing down, you can see this slowly changes because it starts to form a circle. You can see the bit of a bend in that line from the gravitational field of Mars pulling on it. Okay, so as soon as I get down below the 800, you'll see it start to really bend. Yeah, here it comes. Okay, there it is, you see it? And this is going to slow down quite a bit. The closer it gets to the planet, the slower it starts moving in as it's coming in here. You see those every now and then it jumps. That's giving us locations where we could actually go to one of the moons if we want to. So it's going to keep slowing down. I want this to come in even closer than where I currently am. And it tends to flip, which is what it's doing right now. Okay, so it's coming in closer and closer and closer. I don't want it to hit the atmosphere though. So right about there. Okay, just take the thrust way back. I'm just going to loop around. Don't forget I turned off the thruster rockets, right? Because they can affect it when you're making little changes, especially the further away you are there. Okay, let's turn around. Okay. So basically what you want to do is have the point of it following the line, or my thrusters following that arrow. So let's loop a little bit. Again, just want to get as close, the closest point, and adjust. And again, the reason why it's moving is because this orbit is elliptical, or it's a circle, right? Elliptical, basically. Okay, so as soon as we get there, that's close enough, thrusters on. I am keeping an eye on the liquid fluid, or fuel, just to make sure that I'm got enough to make sure I do hit the atmosphere. Okay, so it's flipping around. Now we can start making decisions of where we want to land. So you see that's coming further and further in. Okay, so we're still in orbit, but now we can try to make decisions. So if we want to go and try to get to Mount Olympus, what we would do is we would aim so that the landing point is going to be like about here, because as I apply the thruster, it's going to keep moving it. So probably about here is where I want to have it start to enter the atmosphere and come in, and we'll see where it goes. So let me just adjust this here. I'm going to hit the thrusters and let's see whereabouts we come in. So you can see there how we're in the atmosphere above Mount Olympus, and I think we'll just go right there, because we actually enter the atmosphere back here. Yeah, right there. So we're going to hit the atmosphere here, and we're going to start slowing down. And then this shows us we're going to shoot over it, but don't forget, this isn't including the fact of the gravity or the pull of the atmosphere slowness. So this might actually do it for us right there. So let's just scoot along. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop my rocket. This is where I had the issue before. So this is the rocket that got us here. I'm going to stage that off. So by hitting this button down here again, I should be able to stage that. Now, let's just make sure all of these fuel tanks up here are full. And they are. So I'm just clicking on the back one, clicking on the front one. It says it's already full. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to eject this. There we go. So it's dropping those ones. It's already turned on these engines. That was weird. Normally it pushes that thing. So I'm just pointing this at the arrows down there. Okay. And let's accelerate a little bit more. I'm trying to give us a little bit of space between. And I let it go to the side so that it doesn't come back and hit me or land on me as we're coming in. So where is it? It's right there. It's off to the side. I could go in and up at the top here and tell it to clear debris, but I'm just going to do a quick save here on Mars, because I actually remembered this time. Okay, so I could declare the debris, but I don't want to. I can't, unless I have a self-destruct on it, I can't magically blow it up in space normally, so. Okay, so we're coming in. There we go. And as soon as you get close, it automatically spins a little bit to say this is where we're going, dudes. It's way over there, so we should be fine. And what I'm watching for down here now is because of the fact that this one does have the ability of burning up on re-entry, so I want to keep an eye on the temperatures. Okay, let's give it a little bit of thrust. And you can see how suddenly that line moves, saying that now we're going to land somewhere near Mount Olympus here, it says. We might end up shooting past it a little bit. I'm starting to warm up. So I want to make sure I hit the thrusters so that I don't burn up. There's the other guy going. He's way past me now, so we're clear. So I'm just slowing it down a bit so I don't burn up on re-entry. Yeah, we're going to land well in front of Mount Olympus this time, but that's okay. Yep. I'm no longer heating up too bad yet, so I'm just letting it come in. So I'm slowing down the entrance speed here, just so that we don't start cooking our legs or anything as we're coming in. And if you want to, like, we could close these legs if we want to, just so that they don't heat up quite as fast. But it really doesn't matter, as long as I keep the speeds down. Keep the thrusting pointing into the arrow. We're getting a little bit lower in altitude, that's why we're still heating up here. That arrow is going to keep going down and down and down because we are doing this, right? Okay. It's going to drop my legs again. Mars's gravity is a little bit less than the Earth, so we fall relatively slow. But we want to make sure we're not falling too fast. So I want to keep myself near the top of this arc while watching the speed on the side there, my velocity. So let's slow it right down here. Okay, so we're quite a ways up yet, but we're dropping. You can turn off the thrust for a little bit, let it fall. But it comes up pretty fast, so you got to make sure you don't crash either. I'm going to try to do this without a parachute. The sideward thrust just lets us know that we're moving a little bit to that side. I'm going to slow this down more. And if I slow us down too much, we will start going up like we are there. There's the ground. Here comes the ground. I'm just watching with my thrust to make sure I'm not going too fast. We're below 1,000 meters. Gotta watch my fuel reserve too. Make sure I don't run out of fuel on my way down. Plus my speed and all this stuff. Okay, going too fast. Kick up the speed. There we go. I had to use my thrusters. I was starting to tip over. But there we go. Landed on the surface of Mars. Okay. We're not going to have enough propellant to get us back home. But there's a safe landing on Mars. Now, on my Mars here, if I just show you some of the other stuff we've got here. So there is another little lander I've got. There's one laying on its side. Okay, there's my one on Switch 2. There's my one on Mount Olympus. Oh, look at that. This is the rocket coming in. So, remember it was on a much larger sweep. I can't control it. If there was a probe on it, I could... Oh, is that going back up into space? No, that will eventually crash. So, we'll come back to them. This one is another lander, or another capsule over here. There we go. Another capsule. And beside that is the rocket that got us there. Capsule. Yeah, there's one we just did, so you can see all the different things that are going on here. Where's that one? Here he is. So you can see it is warming up. The engine's getting warm. I've sped it up quite a bit here to see what's going to happen to it. And then we'll turn off this recording. You see we're starting to get some burning happening near the tail of it. So it's warming up because we're starting to get lower in the atmosphere here. This one's almost making it a complete trip around, going through the atmosphere. Here it goes. So the Valiant engine's going to go first. Or maybe the fuel tank. Oh, there it goes. And they're gone. Okay. So, we did land. So we're good. We landed. I think this was us here. Yep, there it is. So, it was a successful landing. Still got a little bit of fuel. I could take off, disconnect the capsule if I want to, and then land it again, because it is separately controllable with its own parachutes and everything. But let's call it a recording there. There you go. One more on Mars.